Committee meeting, Thursday, January. Committee meeting, Thursday, January the 7th. It is 5:35. We're in the Amber Yuri boardroom, and our first item is roll call.
Dr. Celia Moreno,
Present.
Mr. Hector Noyola,
Present.
Mr. Jesus Martinez, present. Mr. Jose Valdez,
Absent.
Mr. Ricardo Garza,
Absent.
Mr. Hector Garcia,
Absent.
Mr. Jose Or Perez.
Absent.
Okay, we have 3 members.
Pledge of Allegiance, Mr. Loyola, you lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Nelson, first item.
Thank you, Dr. Moreno. Respectfully, I would like to request permission to move up agenda item number 12. Dr. Moreno,
Okay,
may we have permission?
yes.
Item number 12 is discussion and presentation to approve the annual financial audit report for fiscal year ended August 31st, 2015. Dr. Moreno, members of the board, we have here today our external auditing firm, Patillo, Brown and Hill, LLC. Representing this firm is the audit manager, Mr. Pablo Bazaldua.
That's correct.
All right, that's right. And his colleague, the audit supervisor, Ms. Lizeth Alafa. They are from Brownsville. They'll be making their way back to the deeper part of the valley tonight. And so they have good news in their work for the last several weeks and really going to confirm the outstanding hard work and dedication of one of our strongest departments in our organization, our finance department, under the direction of our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Ayala. Mr. Pablo Mr. Bazaldua?
That is correct,
Go
sir.
ahead.
How are you?
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Dr. Nelson, Board President, members of the board. Again, my name is Pablo Basaldua, and I'm with the firm of Patillo, Brown and Hill. And I'm here to give you a brief presentation on the comprehensive annual financial report for the year ended August 31st, 2015. I do bring nothing but good news. The audit did go smoothly. We did spend 3 to 4 weeks, this past fall in Ms. Ayala's office, with another week and a half in the summer, going through our various audit procedures, and everything went smoothly. Briefly, I'm going to go over the audit report, and under the schedule of question costs, which is on, let me go to it real quick. The first exhibit I'm going to go over is considered the schedule of findings and question costs. And what that exhibit does is it kind of goes over the different items within the audit report, and it kind of displays what kind of audit opinion that you have. The type of audit report is considered unmodified. The term used to be unqualified a couple of years ago, and that's been changed, but at the end of the day, it still means the same thing. It is a clean report. There was no type of finding, no type of material weakness that was disclosed within the report. As you can see, there's different segments that it kind of goes over, where it kind of goes over and it stipulates that there's no material weakness, there's no type of significant deficiency, because at the end of the day, what ends up happening within the audit report, there ends up being 3 different opinions within the report. The first opinion is on the basic financial statements as a whole. The second opinion is on the internal controls, within the entity. And then the final opinion goes into the different funding sources, the federal funding received, through TEA. So we are required, to do different audit procedures within each and every opinion. And what this schedule kind of does is it kind of lists the different items and kind of tells the reader if there is any type of material weakness or significant deficiency. And as you can see, there was none reported or no in regards to anything that we were required to report. If you look lower down, as far as identification of major program, what we're required to do is we're required to test, based on the threshold and the funding sources received, certain programs on an annual basis. And this year we ended up looking at the child nutrition cluster. So all the different food service programs, there was different audit procedures we were required to test. And then based on those procedures, there was nothing to be reported. Dollar threshold 1.3, meaning in order to distinguish whether it's going to be a type A or type B program, the threshold ended up being 1.3, so that's based on percentage, and then low risk audit T being yes. In essence, what that means is there has been no type of finding in relation to the federal programs or the different testing that's been done for Laredo in the last 2 years. So in essence, the reader, the grantor, financial agency, anybody who looks at the audit report and sees low risk audit T is pretty much telling the reader that there's been no type of issues, within the district for the last 2 years. So in essence, that's why it's considered low risk audit T. Roman numeral number 2, findings in relation to the financial statements which are required to be reported in accordance with GAAP. Again, it's still the same thing, none, because there was no issues to report. And then findings and question costs for federal programs, again, none. Because at the end of the day, the 3 different opinions that we're issuing are considered unqualified. It is to the extent which is the best possible opinion that the district can receive. And after that, I'm going to go over briefly the statement of expenditures, revenues, and changes in fund balance and budget to actual for the general fund. And what this pretty much does is it kind of shows the original budget that was adopted by the board at the beginning of the fiscal year, which was last summer, the final budget, which has the different budget amendments throughout the year, and then the third column shows the actual, which is in essence what's actually expended or received by the district during the year, with the fourth column being the variance column. So what it kind of shows here is the second column shows total revenues budgeted of 212 million, with actual, the third column being 217. So in essence, there's a positive variance of 4.8 million. So at the end of the day, you will be able to see by category, local revenues, there was 24 million budgeted, but what came in, 27 million. State revenue, there was 167 budgeted, but there was 169 that came in with a positive variance of 2 million. And then federal programs, there was 20 million budgeted, but 21 came in, again, positive variance of 477,000. So overall, there was a positive variance with the different types of revenues that came in within the general fund, which is considered the operating that has the bulk of activity. And towards the middle of the page, as you can see under total expenditures, the same thing. Initially, there was an adopted budget of 214, but with the various amendments that happened, there ended up being 223 million that was actually, adopted, final budget, with what was actually expended being 213, which is even more positive, because at the end of the day, there was a positive variance of $10 million. So of course, that's a lot harder to do, within the various departments, and, it's a team effort overall to be able to handle and maintain the expenditures. As a district, you really can't control the revenues that can come in. The different funding sources and the different state and federal aid that you receive and or the taxpayers. That's one thing. But to be able to control the expenditures as a district, of course, that's a really positive thing. So to be able to have a $10 million, positive variance based on what was actually budgeted, at the end of the day, it's just an overall positive thing. There was some transfer in, transfer out. And then the second to the last item, within that third column, last year's ending fund balance for the general fund was 81 million, 81.7, and then the ending overall was 85 million, with an increase of close to 4 million. So overall, there just ended up being a $4 million increase to the general fund operating budget. So at the end of the day, there's just, even though there was positive variances, there were some transfer outs to other funding sources, there still ended up being a positive increase at end of year. And then this number translates to Exhibit C-3, which goes over to 803. This will show you in essence the same thing. Again, the very first column be the general fund, which we just kind of went over, but it will also show you the major program that was picked up, which was the EDA, and then all the other funds. In essence, the fund accounting, you end up having your general fund, your debt service fund, special revenue funds, capital projects funds. So there's various funds that are in essence entitled, to be disclosed within the report. The general fund being the main operating, and then the other funds that encompasses all the other activity. The EDA 214 is considered a major program. So based on the criteria and the different funding that you receive, total assets, total liabilities, total revenues, total expenditures, we're required to show the EDA as what's considered a major fund, which is why it's disclosed in itself by itself. And then everything else, special revenue, capital projects, debt service, is considered what's in other. There is combining statements within the report that kind of shows that detail. But in essence, overall, this kind of collapses everything, and it just kind of shows you the end result of total of everything. So what you have total revenues for the district as far as governmental funds, the last column shows the 272 million. Towards the middle of the page, total expenditures, you do see 301 million. Excess of revenues over expenditures is the 28 million. And again, the ending amount at the end of year, last year you had 188 million, and then this year you have 160. You know, the bulk of the hit that's really happening is within this major program that's being disclosed, which is the capital projects. You know, with the various projects going on with the district and the bond money that it was received, you know, this is the year that you expended a lot in regard to some of these various construction projects going on. And that's really what you see here. This money came in last year, and this is the year where the bulk of those expenditures are going on. And then finally, this kind of correlates over to Exhibit C-1, which is considered your balance sheet. And again, going over briefly the very first column, which is your general fund, total assets for the general fund being 101, total liabilities being 15 million, and then your fund balance of 85 million, which is the second to the last within that first column. That 85 million shows the different types of restrictions, you know, in regards to the fund balance and the different types of commitments. As you can see, the 1.4 is the inventory amount, because that's in essence what you have within the district under inventories. And then, you know, restricted funds for federal, which is the food service at 2.7, and then retirement of long-term debt. And there's different committed fund balances that you as a board have agreed to, and that's it'll kind of list it, and it'll kind of show the reader what it is that you have. And then the unassigned fund balance of the 62 million. So at the end of the day, this just kind of tells you in detail what you have as unassigned fund balance for end of year out of the 85 million for the general operating. And it'll kind of show you the same thing for the other different funding sources. But at the end of the day, the bulk of the activity really is within this general, within this governmental fund within the general. And then finally, under Exhibit A-1, what you end up having, the very last thing, is what's considered the government-wide financial statements. You know, the difference between what is C-1, the balance sheet, and this A-1, the statement of net position, the A-1 encompasses your capital assets and your long-term debt. You know, it'll kind of encompass everything, and then it'll combine the total capital assets for the district. You know, under Object Code 1510, you do have land of 19 million, buildings, which is depreciated, of 328, furniture of 11 million, construction in progress of 17, and then long-term investments of 2 million. And it'll also encompass the long-term debt, which is due within 1 year of 16 million, with due more than 1 year of 285. And then the new thing in comparison from last year to this year is you do have a net pension liability of 27 million. The 27 million, in essence, what ends up happening, there was GASB 68 that was issued this past year, and what every single governmental entity is now required to do is they're required to disclose the net pension liability within its appropriate financial statements. Every single year, there have been expenditures paid out, you know, to TRS, you know, on behalf of the district, on behalf of the employees, but they were the ones who maintained and accounted for, you know, this activity. But now what they want is they want for each and every entity to be responsible and disclose this within their financial statements. So what ends up happening, everything that was paid out in previous years, now they're telling you for you to carry it and have this as a disclosure within your reports for future years. So this is the first year that you're going to end up carrying that liability, and it'll be adjusted, you know, annually within these government-wide financial statements only. You know, just like you're going to have your capital assets and your long-term debt, now you're going to end up carrying this net pension liability within these government-wide financial statements only. So in essence, this will be something new that you see, that if you compare the 2015 report to other years, you're not going to have that. But it's going to be something that, unfortunately, we're going to end up having to carry and disclose for future years. And that's really one of the most significant things that's happened across a lot of school district reports and counties and cities, because now they're required to end up having to disclose this. And that's really the bulk or the biggest change that ended up happening overall within the financial statements. Aside from that, everything did go smoothly. I mean, Ms. Ayala and her staff did provide us everything that we needed. We had no significant issues. Normally, we'll issue some type of management letter that kind of goes over into detail in regards to anything that's found throughout the audit, but there's no management letter that we're issuing either. You know, there were some minor things here or there, but, you know, based on our sample size, it was really nothing of significance that was required to be reported to you.
Yes.
I'll
Mr.
wait till
Garza?
after the, just real quick, Go ahead, Mr. Garza.
Well, I was just going to say regarding that letter, ordinarily, is it y'all's job to provide, if you see any long-term variables that might affect our district?
Yes,
And it could be at any one of these positions that you just mentioned right now?
Right.
You just mentioned TRS and the state and what they're doing through that. So in this particular case, you don't see anything in the near future or long-term future, we're headed in the right direction?
yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, Mr. Basaldua, is this the final and only audit to be done on?
Yes, it is an annual financial audit, and it is something that's required to be done on an annual basis, and, it is in draft format, but simply because it needed to be presented to the committee first, but soon after this, then you'll have the final for the board meeting.
And you said that there was no letter to management?
No, I mean, everything went smoothly, and really, the one or two things that did come up, I mean, they were really minor. It may have been one or two instances, and that was disclosed to Ms. Ayala so she could review. But it was really nothing of significance. Overall, based on the sample size, percentage-wise, really what we found was really nothing.
Good. Thank you, Dr. Moreno. Quick question. One of the things that comes up throughout the year as we discuss finances in our school system is the idea of unrestricted fund balance.
Right.
Now, you mentioned a figure of about 81 million that we added 4 million to this year. Did I understand you correctly?
In essence, what you have as unassigned fund balance is 62 million.
62.
Yes, but it's 62 million within, again, fund accounting, so you have, what the general fund has, it has all the different funding sources from 100 to 199. So you do have in there, again, you have food service, you have state bilingual, transportation, there's different types of departments within that. And so the 62 million, yes, it's unassigned, but it could also be departmentalized within each and every funding source. So it's not necessarily 62 million just for 199, because it could be for other funds as well.
And in your professional opinion, as a person who does audits of organizations our size, would you say that that is reasonable, excessive, small? Is that something you're able to offer a unqualified opinion? So to speak?
Excessive is what you want to end up doing is you want to be able to end up looking at what it takes for the school district to run on an annual basis. So if we look at the expenditures as an example, there's 200 million. So if you take the 200 million and you divide that by the number of working days, right? In essence, that's what it would take should no future revenue come in. So say something happens and no future revenue is coming in. So if you take your expenditures for operation on a daily basis and you multiply that by the number of days, whether you want to use school days or business days or calendar year, whatever it is that the district wants to use. But that's what it takes for the district to run. And in essence, since you have committed money already or restricted money that you can't use, the only thing you would have is the unassigned fund balance. So if you take that calculation, then in essence, that's how many days the district can run, without any future money coming in. So that's a good parameter, or that's something that districts use or entities use to say, okay, how financially healthy are we? And the number really that you want to be able to maintain and keep is anywhere between 60 to 90 days. And that's really how you can gauge it to the comfort level by the board or by administration to say, this is where we want to be. We want to be anywhere between 60 and 90. To say, we can run for 30 days, it's in the MD&A, and it's this, and there's a section within the report that kind of goes over into that, but that's really how you want to be able to gauge it, because it's not just about, okay, how much do we have? It's about how much does it take for the district to run to be able to gauge it and say, this is where we are.
Yes, sir. Any other comments or questions from the Board of Trustees? If not, may we proceed? Thank you very much for coming and your time. And last but certainly not least, could we have all the members of the Finance Department please stand and be recognized for joining us here this evening? Appreciate all of your work and appreciate you being here this evening. And we'll be asking for approval on this on our consent agenda next Thursday. I also would like to, just in the interest of time, while Ms. Ayala puts together the first few agenda items, Dr. Moran, I'd like to have permission to move up agenda item number 19. Thank you.
Go ahead,
Agenda
yes.
item number 19, for the record, is discussion and presentation on the Webb County School Uniform Truancy Policy. Dr. Moreno, members of the board, this is really just an update. On December 14th, the Webb County Consolidated School District, the United School District, and our school district basically had a joint presentation in front of the Webb County Commissioners Court to follow the mandate that had come from this most recent legislative session. Basically, the mandate was that all the local school districts work together to facilitate a process of working with the local judges that's more effective. And so Ms. Cindy Mendiola, who is our at-risk coordinator for attendance, Ms. Maggie Martinez, the Executive Director of Student Services, and myself have been in a host of meetings. We've provided the language that the County Commissioners Court approved. And we just wanted you to see that. We discussed it in detail in our Student Support Services meeting, and we're moving forward with this policy. And I'm proud of the work that's been done out of our Office of Secondary Education, our Office of Student Services, and we're really now fixing to start. We've just gotten to the point where we'll be exercising more truancy filings this semester than compared to we did last semester. Are there any comments or questions we can answer about that?
Can I just ask,
Mr. Garza?
one of the things that, as I mentioned at committee, that I really didn't want to happen is that I made it a point that we want to be and this doesn't say anything to the county judges or the judges at all, but I really wanted to push ourselves to be as self-sufficient as possible and to handle as much as we can internally so that I don't want to say the due process procedures that are intact will not hold up the student from going back to class. I know you and I had discussed it, that it's going to be absolute cases that are special that need to go before that.
Sure.
But I just didn't want to make it so easy that'll be our first choice. And we've been pushing this for the last 3 years, that we've been pushing our student code of conduct to be as strong as it can so that we can do that. It doesn't say anything about the judicial system and what they're doing, but I just wanted to have it so that we can be self-sufficient and we can do our own work here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll go to our first few agenda items as presented on our agenda. Item number, Ms. Ayala.
Thank you, Dr. Nelson. Good evening, Madam Board President, Board of Trustees. I'll begin with item number 1, discussion and presentation to approve and or ratify the monthly disbursements for November 2015. Total cash disbursements, $20 million, of which $14.2 million were for the payment of wages and salaries, and $5.7 million for the payment of goods and services. May I proceed to item 2?
Yes.
Item 2 is related to the highlights of unaudited financial statements, and this will be as of November 30th, 2015. Donations for the month of November 2015, $12,174. The fiscal year-to-date donations amount, $38,504.
So is our computer with you?
Yes, ma'am. It got stuck.
Okay.
Only on yours, because I see the other ones. There it is. The delay.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. Would you like for me to repeat it?
No, go ahead.
Okay. On slide 3, these are the revenues. The month-to-month comparison. For the November 2015, we earned revenues or recorded revenues in the amount of $19.5 million, which is 6% or $1 million over the same month in 2014. Followed for the year-to-date amounts, we recorded $72.4 million, which is 8% or $5.4 million more when compared to the same period last year. Under the tax collection summary, the September to November collections were recorded at $16.5 million, which is 58% of the budgeted amount of $28.2 million. And if you scroll down, we have the October to November collections at 16.6%, or almost 60% of the amended opening levy, which is great. Our taxpayers came in, took advantage of those discounts, and we were able to collect a high amount. Under expenditures by object,
I do have a concern here. If you look at that, you've got two little blocks up there. The second one, the fiscal year to date, payroll increased by 1.3 million.
in the year-to-date, yes.
Right. That's a pretty big increase,
Yes, ma'am, and it has to do with
okay?
It has to do with the increases in payroll that the board gave, and we also, I do have it with me.
I mean, wouldn't it be the positions that we've added this year?
Okay, I think my questions are on the sixth, on the next one.
On the by function?
Yes, let's go to the next one, but I'm still getting it, here we go, okay. Instruction,
Right.
that change of 1 million, is that on a month basis or
That is a year-to-date,
a year-to-date?
yes.
Okay, that looked like a concern. How about the student transportation?
Yes, ma'am.
An increase, in other words, we've already spent more at this time than we did last year.
And that's because we purchased 9 school buses and some white fleet that caused it to show that
Okay.
increase. And for instruction, it had to do with student tuition expenses increasing by about 300,000, and obviously the...
But we are budgeted for the whole year. In other words, we're not going to run out of money, is
No,
what
ma'am.
I'm saying.
We're within the budget amount.
Okay, and then there was another one there with, staff development also at 98% already.
Yes, and that
In
is...
November, mind you, not in February or January. In November, we were at 98%.
A percent change, right. And it went from 58 to 116,000, which is only 57. And that had to do with function 13, professional development costs. I can certainly give you a higher, detailed report on it, but I can tell you that we did have a lot of consultants coming in earlier in the year.
I guess I just want to say that we need to keep an eye on these because
Absolutely.
we have a budget and we don't expect to have to be transferring money into those accounts.
No, ma'am, that is the reason why we enforce the purchase order system. With the purchase order system, we have the encumbrance controls that help us be within our budget.
Well, if it's salaries, that's not a,
Salaries are
Purchase order.
budgeted
right.
as well,
But
yes.
that goes right alongside that, I think we had been talking about that last year. I think we need to do a little bit better job and try to calculate what those, I know what's going to go on. There's about 3 or 4 other things that are going to go on in this year's budget process that, first of all, we're going to have we had 3 new buildings that we didn't have before, Nixon, VMT, and Zachary. That's going to increase in certain areas, and
The
we need to make sure
electricity.
that
Yes.
we budget those things properly. They have not, I mean, I know we can go and do that, but I think it allows us to pinpoint exactly where our expenditures are going to rise and not have any transfers during the year.
Well, and that's
or
gauged through
amended
ADA.
budgets during the year. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to hold that down to a minimum. And I'm not sure if this is a product of that. That, for instance,
Under this report, we're just showing the actual to actual comparison. In the supporting documentation, you would see the budget to actual in higher detail. We have it by object, we have it also by function. But yes, and that is the reason we present before you every monthly, just to keep control and make sure that we fall under the budget.
And Flor, what was the facilities acquisition of 277?
That, we use local funds to provide some improvements for Zachary and furniture. And also for the Alma Piers in Santo Niño.
No, go ahead.
Ms. Young.
Thank you. Good questions. Under financing sources, we have transferred out $857,000, which is $155,000 more when compared to November 2014 of last year. And that is having to do with the purchase of the Christmas tree in the Civic Center and increases in electricity in the Civic Center properties as well. Under the administrative cost ratio, the standard 11.05%, the amended budget 8.26%, and the fiscal year-to-date amount 6.09%. Next, we have the general operating fund. For the 3 months ending in November 30th, the time lapsed 25%. For revenues, we recognize $72.4 million, which is 35% of the
So
budget.
did we approve that change in, that amendment to expenditures
Yes, ma'am.
without
That has-
funding it?
I'm sorry?
Without funding it?
Without funding it. No,
Will
ma'am.
you-
Remember, we rolled some purchase orders that we brought last November?
Why would it show a negative net change in fund balance with a negative instead of equal?
Because we are we're bringing in some costs, some encumbrances from the balance sheet over. We rolled them over, so we're going to have a negative in the budget side.
So we do have a budget, we haven't funded it.
It is
Because it
funded.
shows the negative, right? Negative 686?
Again, it's the encumbrances. When we rolled over those encumbrances, it causes this reaction in the income statement.
You didn't roll over the funds for it?
Yes. We don't receive revenues because we already earned the revenues in the previous year. So those open encumbrances, those unfinished projects, we reserved them
Last
in
year's
the
money
balance
this
sheet,
year.
right? So when you have
But are you paying them with this year's money or last year's?
last year's old money, pretty well. Previous
You're moving
years.
the money over, but you're not showing, you're
The
just showing.
appropriate- in
you're
order
showing
for
the
me-
expenditure, but the revenue's already there.
And
In
there's
order
not
for
a-
us to proceed with those roll forward encumbrances, I have to appropriate. Otherwise, we may lose control in the budgetary process and overspend.
Okay. You don't call, but you didn't bring in the funds, or otherwise it wouldn't be a negative.
This is budget. Right.
It's already been budgeted.
It's,
The money's
I
already
don't
set
know how
aside.
to.
Okay, so we know why. That's what matters.
Yes.
the account sitting there until it's time to pay it off. It was
Well,
there
and
it
this
was
is
there last year.
a cost of, that's why I keep enforcing, let's finish everything as of 8/31, because then we have to make this reservation.
Sure,
And we amend the budget to bring those unfinished projects over.
correct.
Causes it to look as a negative.
Without bringing the funds over.
Well, because at the end of the year, when you start balancing everything, it balances out. The money is sitting in the balance sheet, if you will. I mean,
Okay.
Transfer.
Next, we have the Child Nutrition Program. Revenue $6.1 million, which is 32% of the amended budget of $19 million. And we have expenditures of 4.9 with encumbrances of $6.1 million. The sum represents 58% of the amended budget. We have the E-rate. We've only recorded $53,000, which is about 18% of the amended budget. And we have expenditures of $246,000 with encumbrances of $531,000, whose sum represents 17% of the amended budget amount. In the athletics funds, we have revenues of $132,000, which is about 66% of the budget of $202,000, and we have expenditures of $1.4 million. Expenditures of $351,000 with encumbrances of $185,000, whose sum represents 36% of the amended budget, or the original budget of $1.4 million. Under our debt service fund, total revenues earned $18.1 million, which is 67% of the amended budget. And we have expenditures of $2,300, which is less than 1% of the budgeted amount. Next, we have the special revenue funds. As of November 30th, I do have the balances as of today. I think we had decided to give you a copy as well.
So did Lamar get $100,000 or $54,000?
Who, ma'am? I'm sorry.
Title I for Lamar?
Lamar got 100.
Yes, good evening. Members of the board, Dr. Nelson. Lamar got the $147,000. The reason it doesn't show there, Dr. Moreno, is because there was a change in how they wanted the funding, so we have to submit an amendment. They decided that they needed more money in extra duty pay. They will be hiring some tutors, some retired teachers. So we need to get approval on the amendment before we post the money.
Okay.
But they are getting the $147,000. They got an additional $8,225, a reallocation money also.
Okay, and, okay, that was my question on the slide.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions regarding special revenues? If not, can we have permission to proceed?
Yes.
Ms. Ayala?
Next page, you mean, next
The
slide.
last one, yes,
There's another slide there.
which will be the summary of construction funds.
No, there was another slide
Go
on
back to the
these.
special
Oh, I'm
revenue.
sorry.
I just wanted to highlight, let's see, no, the other one. There was three, the
Okay.
second one.
There you go.
I wanted to highlight the fact that last year, 1.4 was not spent by special education just from one source.
But it was rolled forward. It was
Okay?
not
I
lost.
just, we
keep-
have so many needs
We've
for
been
those
talking about this over
children.
and over and over, and it's still the same people, the same departments doing the same thing. And I know we do spend a lot, but we're not doing.
Right, I mean,
We're spending a lot, give us
We're
the
not
bill.
ignoring you.
Let us order, and I guarantee you it'll be at a zero budget. But we can't do that because that's not what we're elected to do.
We need to provide
But-
so many services
Right.
to them, and yet, here's the money and the services don't get provided.
Or find somebody else to do it.
Dr. Moreno, can I allow our chief of staff to respond to this?
Yes.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Ramirez?
Dr. Moreno, the reason that we left the 1.4 is that at the beginning of the year, we have to be able to allot for the payroll at the beginning of the year because of the roll forward that we don't get until sometimes as late as February and March. So we
But you
allow,
have a new budget already, and it's only
it's-
January.
but it's generally, I mean, last year, we were at a point where in November, we were borrowing from the roll forward, which we didn't have yet because we didn't have enough to complete the year. So we leave a cushion on the table, or in the bank, if you will, so that when we started the year off, we would have enough for
I think
because of the
those things
contracted
need to-
services.
Is this communicated to the people that provide this funding? Has this been communicated?
Well, when we've been, as we've been presenting the
This is
budget.
federal money. Have you
Right.
told our Representative Cuellar about this? I mean, how can you have to keep 1.5 million without spending it so that
Remember
you
that
can be
because
ready to go the
Yeah.
next year and the beginning of the year?
Well, remember, we have the contracted services for our special needs students that we have to keep monies on the table for, because those services cannot be interrupted. So we have to be able to have, as they were talking about, for those day-to-day expenses, you have to have something to pull from. So even though we have the budget that comes in the year, we still have those contracted services that there's a lapse before the roll forward comes forward.
So we can't find money anywhere else that we can spend it and go
Not-
back and then replace it when it comes back? That's
well-
what you're doing anyway.
Well, when you're talking about special ed and you're talking about the 244, there's special guidelines with that. So, as far as supplies and things that we need for our special ed students, campuses, when they need supplies, they're ordering the things that they need, the materials that they need. Our special ed students have a wide variety
I
of.
just would like for us to see if this is what other districts do.
Okay.
Okay.
See
How
if they
much of that
keep-
1.5 or 4 is for salaries?
Most of it.
The next break.
Most of it.
The next breakdown for the budget will be coming up at the February CNI meeting, and you'll see
How much
Will
of
be-
it is for salaries?
for salaries.
First of all, that money
The
doesn't
financial
even become available to us until after it gets re-sent. So the fact that we didn't spend it doesn't give us the money to spend, because that 1.4 won't be available until they have resent it to us. Right?
And it's a matter of timing. Sometimes we do intentionally leave money on the table, like Ms. Ramirez said, because when we budget, when special ed gets the preliminary planning numbers, all of it is for payroll costs, leaving very little for operational costs. So in order for us to continue with our contracted services without interruption, we can literally transfer 25% of it for other costs without having to ask permission from TEA. The same position is in Title I. You're going to see those same balances left there in order to.
So let's find out if other districts do the same thing.
Yes,
And
ma'am. We'll
actually
definitely
have
do
a
that
letter from
research.
TA saying that we can follow that strategy that we can share. We got it about 2 years.
Well, that'll be part of our presentation to show what other districts do. Can we hear from our Director of Special Ed real quick? He wanted to participate in this discussion. Mr. Gomez?
Yes, good evening, board members, Dr. Nelson. Okay, in 2015, Dr. Moreno, September, we got about $3.9 million from the federal government. Out of those $3.9 million, about 3.5 went directly into salaries. We get salaries from September 2015 all the way through August 2016. The budget goes directly to salaries. That left us with about $400,000 for all the related services, which includes, for example, deaf education services, certified interpreters, which is costing us about $15,000 a week, which is $60,000 a month. If you multiply that times 4, $240,000, September, October, November, December. That's $240,000, which leaves then $160,000 only to be using for psychologicals, homebound, in-home service, all the other services that the students need. In November 2015, I had to come and talk to Ms. Ayala because we had to borrow $200,000 from salaries, and we're going to pay them back when we get the roll forward. And so this week, I met with Mr. Scott Roberts to allocate the $1.5 million. It's not going to be 1.4, it's going to be 1.5 that we're rolling forward for this spring 2016. Out of those 1.5, 200,000 right away went back because we needed to pay them back. About $1 million has already been allocated, and we are forecasting leaving $500,000 for January 2017. 500,000. Which I don't know if we're going to be able to cover for 2017, the spring 2017, because right now we're allocating $1 million just to cover the spring expenses.
How much do you spend on salaries? You should know that.
About $3.5 million, sir,
On three-
Annually.
annually, yes.
And how much did we allocate from this? All three points?
All $3.5 million, sir, goes directly into September 15, 2015, when we received the first NOGA. It goes directly into salaries.
There really isn't any, the money there's already been allocated.
The money has already been allocated,
So
sir.
where was the money budgeted that you did not spend?
Is from the roll forward. And again,
You
Dr.
had 1.5 that you didn't spend, or 1.4. Where did that come from that you didn't spend it?
That was from the previous year, from the roll forward. And again, the roll forward
So you
comes,
keep rolling forward the same 1.5 every year?
no,
To make ends meet.
yes.
But you're never spending it, so how can it be to make ends meet?
No.
You're
but
never spending it. Every year, the same one just goes forward.
The roll forward before, it was about $3.4 million, and that's when we bought the playgrounds, all the swimming pool equipment, all the learn pads that we spent. And so we left less, $1.5 million. So right now, Dr. Moreno, I'm forecasting, projecting only $500,000 to leave on the table for spring 2017.
Well,
I
we'll
suggest
see.
that, maybe this will help, because we have this conversation every year. And I think the fact of the matter is that we only hear from Mr. Gomez once a year, instead of hearing from him maybe every other month at our meetings. Because the meetings, well, we have a short discussion on what goes on, but we don't have any idea until we get to that number every year. It just sticks out at us. And we have to question that every year. I get you. I mean, you're saying 3.5 in payroll, we have 3.9, $400,000 goes to materials and whatever else you have, and it still might not be enough. But you have to, you're using the money on a timing basis. You're leaving the 1.4 until you make sure you get the other amount of money. Then you spend it, but leave 1.4 behind, so that the other time when you get the money, so you kind of, it's a looping process. It's a looping process in that aspect, because you're just not spending. You're leaving it as a balance there until you do get it.
It's been decreasing.
It's been decreasing
But
through the years.
but what I'm saying is that you have to sort of, it's sort of like but the way we're looking at it, or the way I'm looking at it from up here, you're holding on to it to make sure that by the time you get that rollover, you still have some money there, and then release it. You hold money back and then release it.
The thing is, Mr. Garza, is that the money doesn't come all together
That's my point.
in September. It
That's my
comes in
point.
September and then in January. Now, my concern for 2017 is leaving $500,000 and starting spring 2017 with $500,000. I'm projecting $1 million for the spring. And what I'm going to have a year from now is only going to be $500,000.
So, but you're telling that to us right now, and I'm not sure that conversation should have been had in August of this past year, where we say, we're foreseeing that in October, November, and the spring of April, we're going to be short $500,000.
Of 2017.
Of 2017. Right now, we're fine.
It's okay, so you're
this coming
reporting it
August.
ahead of time.
Right.
Okay, all right.
So we'll research with other districts.
Well, my point is that because we get, it sort of seems like we get to hear this on a last-second basis, and if we have, and it's nothing bad from my point of view, I'm just saying that we report it, and until we get the gist of it up here, and the reporting aspect of it, then we can follow along right with you.
And that's why, Mr. Garza, under your direction or suggestion, we added some of those budget reports to our committee meetings. And so we're doing quarterly budget updates at our meetings from all of the departments, so that you do hear from special ed and bilingual and Kate at, for example, at the CNI meeting, so that we give you those updates of here's where we are right now, and this is what we're forecasting for the next 3 months of what we're spending, so that you when you do have questions about where's the money going, you can see it on a 3-month.
Can you flag it this time around and maybe raise your voice a little bit more so that we can hear it?
But you see where the confusion is, it's not that so much, is that they're granting you money for this year. And you're using this year's money to fund stuff for next year, which we shouldn't be doing.
Well, for example, the way Mr. Gomez was using the example from the year before, when the roll forward came through, the money didn't come in that last year, it was March.
But you're using money that was given to you to spend this year, you're holding it because you don't know when the other money is going to come, but still, it was given to you to spend this year, and that's what we're not doing, because we're rolling it to the next year, so we're living today with yesterday's money.
Yeah.
That's what you're trying to, that's what we're, at the end of the day.
Well,
we're
sort
saying.
of, some of it.
Well, we should
So we
be
went
doing-
from 3.5 million, we spent all the way up to 1.5, we rolled 1.5, we're going to spend all the way up to 500,000, and then,
But you understand what our concern is, that
Yes,
you're
sir.
using, you're
Yes, sir.
using now for tomorrow, which you should
and
be
so with his concern with the 500,000, if we get it in January, we still are going to be 500,000
But
for
even though,
this.
even if the 500 doesn't bother me, because if, you know what, there is places to find money, because that money could be replaced, because we had to pull it from somewhere to pay for this, and there, I don't care what regulations, we're just refunding the money that's already, that should have been put in there before. If we didn't get it this time, we got it this time, but we can still use that money to repair ourselves for taking that money out and use it for special ed.
Up to 25% though. There's.
Up to
there's
what?
more.
25%.
Okay.
So, speaking about grants, do we have any status report on that pre-K grant? Has it already been submitted, the application, or?
We
has
have
it
not
even-
gotten any information.
Let's bring that in February.
Okay, we just don't want to be left
No, no, we
left
won't.
behind.
We're in a
Yeah,
close eye.
okay.
Pre-K. Go ahead.
There's the last page, Dr. Moreno.
Yes, that's
Any
okay.
comments or questions on the last page of special revenues?
Just that those that say district-wide for person responsible, maybe it should be a person that will see to it that the funds are,
Yeah, that should be say fine arts director.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I would correct that.
Yeah, we'll clean that up.
and that 482 money that's here for supplies,
Oh,
Dr.
okay.
Hartman,
yes.
Yeah, that would be professional development.
those are the teachers that apply for those grants, Dr. Nelson.
Right.
But-
Curriculum.
So we'll-
But we need to
so
have
no
someone give
district-wide,
them
right.
information about it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Is that a grant, Dr. Hartman?
He gives us money.
Oh, he does?
Lastly, we have the summary of construction funds. Any comments?
I know, that's why I didn't want to say too much.
May I proceed to item
Yes.
3?
Yes.
Thank you. Item 3, discussion and presentation on the following budget amendments. Item BA 1516-22, this is discussion and presentation to approve the general operating fund budget amendment in the amount of $9,216 as a result of transfers between functional expenditure categories from the Board of Trustees discretionary funds.
3B?
BA 1516-21, discussion and presentation to approve the 2005 Series EDA budget amendment in the amount of $615,000 to appropriate funding for the artificial turf at the Joseph W. Nixon High School football field.
Dr. Moreno?
Yes.
So just real quick, I wanted to make sure that we followed up on this. I'd heard from a couple board members concerned about our practice of having board action one month that approved, like, for example, the board approved last month for us to go bring turf to Nixon High School and work on a plan to also bring turf to Figueroa. And so in some of our board members' perspective, there shouldn't need to be more action the month after the board already directed us to do this. I wanted to communicate that I followed up on that. And so once the board takes action on a footer, on a regular agenda item that's not in the ledger, well, then it's customary to prepare for our external auditors that we bring the amendment of that action the following month.
I think that if you're able to bring both of them at the same time,
That
then
make it
you
quicker.
don't have to have another agenda
And that's
item.
what we discussed. But, so
But
what we
you
need to
do
do
need
in the
to-
future, if a trustee puts an agenda item on that says they want to put turf at Nixon, well, then we need to
Assume.
prepare the amendment as well so that it all gets approved.
Right, so that,
If I'm correct, correct me if I'm wrong, and if you talk to an attorney, if the motion is made from the floor, and the way the motion is made, you don't have to have it on your agenda.
You don't have to have an amendment the
Motion-
next,
The motion overrides the agenda, yes, ma'am.
The amendments too?
Yes.
we'll double check with
We'll
Mr.
double-
Kaysen.
I checked.
The
with
financial guidelines require that the
I
board
checked it
approve
today.
the,
It is approved. If the motion is made,
right, on the contract side, yes. You're absolutely right on the contract side. But the funding is not allocated in the proper location.
but in this particular case, the superintendent said where this funding was going to come from.
We didn't know.
I thought that the way they
Yeah.
were presented to us, that we found funding that's coming from here, that's how we made the motion.
After the
If we
fact.
didn't know that, we wouldn't have.
I
No.
think that it needs to be clear in the motion.
Where the funding's coming
funding
from,
is.
no need for an
Exactly.
If
amendment.
you added it,
It's a point well
or if you had
taken.
it on the agenda, it's not the
Look at it.
issue.
I just wanted you to know I
It needs
looked
be
at it
clear.
and started working on it.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Is the artificial turf for Nixon the same as Shirley has?
I don't know about that. Is it?
It's the same kind, the only thing they're going to look.
Mr. Pice, would you like to come speak to?
The can-
Same quality?
Yeah.
Good.
The only thing they're going to look is to see if the pebbles
Oh,
that we're
that's right.
using
That's right.
are not cancer. because
The
there's
tire stuff,
thing
yeah.
going on that we need to look into all
Have
our fields.
our direct, if we made
Yes,
Dr.
sir.
Moreno our
Palmetto
director.
Pies
of
project
construction-
manager. We do have a different brand. This is Vibra World. That's going to go into Nixon High School. Shirley Field is Hellas. They are compatible,
That's it.
but they are different makes.
And the pebbles are the same thing?
The Pebble is the same, yes.
Okay, so I thought at the committee meeting, we decided we were going to go research. Is there any way to confirm that those pebbles are not cancer causing, or is there another option?
We did have a conversation with Landecker Construction today, and they are not aware of any substantial study or decision that the pebble actually does cause cancer. Both companies are still using the pebble.
And that's really where I was headed, so that we can, just that we emailed, that we covered our tracks, that we looked into it. I don't think any class action suits or anything like that are out there right now.
Correct.
It's been under the radar, but it's occurring. The second part about it, I'm not sure we can take a proactive approach on this, because I did, on their website, it says, the pros and cons, obviously, and that one of the pros is that it's less resistant to concussion impact. I think that's the word that they used, meaning that it's a little bit more cushion than if you were, which I really don't personally happen to agree. When you have natural grass, I think that absorbs it a little bit better than when you have this stuff. Just to see if, that we've looked into that, because that's another topic that's going to be coming up, that people are going to be talking about concussions when they fall on the ground, when they slam their head on the field, that it does have that cushion or that extra vibration isolation on it, or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's almost a reaction that the pebble
That it
gives
absorbs,
the-
that it absorbs the
impact.
The impact
Yes.
faster and better.
Yeah.
Okay.
May we proceed, Dr. Moreno?
Yes.
Ms. Ayala, 3C?
3C, BA 1516-12, discussion and presentation to approve the general operating fund budget amendment in the amount of $10,983,224 from other restricted Webb County Permanent School Fund and committed fund balance to appropriate transfer out to capital projects fund for the administrative building. So this is general
3D.
fund. 3D is the other side on the capital projects fund. BA 1516-13, discussion and presentation to approve the capital projects fund budget amendment in the amount of $10,983,224 to appropriate the transfer in from the general fund, general operating fund, permanent school fund, and committed fund balance for the administration building.
3E.
BA 1516-18, discussion and presentation to approve the operating fund budget amendment in the amount of $50,573 as a result of transfers between functional expenditure categories.
3F.
BA 1516-19, discussion and presentation to approve the Child Nutrition Program 101 budget amendment in the amount of $580,000. We need to make that correction as a result of fund balance appropriation to increase budget allocations for additional food items and purchase point-of-sale scanners needed for daily operations.
Is that F?
That's 3F. It should be
So
$580,000.
the change to the 230.
It should not be, right. The correct amount is $580,000.
3G,
BA 15-16-20-20, discussion and presentation to approve the E-rate budget amendment in the amount of $16,624 as a result of transfers between functional expenditure categories.
4A,
This is a renewal, RFP number 14-009, bulk fuel and related products and services. The Evaluation Committee recommends renewal of the contract to Arguindegui Oil for an estimated amount of $600,000.
4B,
Renewal, TASB Buy Board Co-op Vendor number 458-14, HVAC chiller and pumps. The Evaluation Committee recommends a renewal of the contract to Train for an estimated amount of $200,000.
4C,
Renewal, RFP number 14-044, air conditioning parts, supplies, and equipment. The Evaluation Committee recommends renewal of the contracts to R&M Refrigeration Supply, Inc. and Train Supply for an estimated amount of $310,000.
Real quick question. Mr. Velazquez, have we already started looking at our summer plan for all our schools? Like starting to put an idea of
Filters.
what we're going to do if we need so much work on air conditioners that we start looking for a company now? Are we going to do it in-house and not wait till the very end? That way we have a plan from the first day the kids leave. The plans already goes into effect the second day and we're out with enough time?
Yeah, we're gonna have the complete information by March,
Okay.
so, but
And
we're
that's in
working on it right
everything,
now.
and how many POs or how many work orders that we're behind and that we're gonna get ahead? Are we gonna?
Estimated amount and all that.
Yeah, because we're still playing catch up from last year.
Yes, no, I
And we
understand.
shouldn't be. We should
But
be
we're
on
ready
this
for
year,
that.
right?
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Mr. Velazquez, the evaluation committee, is that the same committee for all these items, or you have different ones?
No, we have different committees for every different service or commodity. The rule is that we have a minimum of 3 individuals from the division that is actually processing the procurement, and we have 3 more individuals from different divisions.
4D,
Renewal, RFP number 14-040. This is for subcontractors for electrical services. The Evaluation Committee recommends renewal of the contract to Quantum Electric Company and Alpha Omega Electrical Contractor for an estimated amount of $100,000.
4E,
This is a Region 1 South Texas Co-op vendor number 12-04-21, a Texas Association of School Boards TASB Buy Board vendor number 397-12. This is for floor machines. The Evaluation Committee recommends awarding a contract to Gulf Coast Paper and CCD Distributor for an estimated amount of $165,725.
4F,
This is TASB Buy Board Co-op vendor number 474-14, and it is for lawn equipment and mowers. The Evaluation Committee recommends awarding a contract to Hill Country Outdoor Power for an estimated amount of $50,000.
4G,
TASB Buy Board Co-op vendor number 455-14. This is for stage seating for Nixon Black Box Classroom. The Evaluation Committee recommends awarding a contract to Wenker Corporation for an estimated amount of $29,796.
4H,
This is RFP number 15-037, and it is for district-wide chain link fence and gated projects 2015-2016. The Evaluation Committee recommends awarding a contract to Pecos Fence for an estimated amount of $34,750.
Where are they from? Pecos Fence Incorporated? San Antonio? We couldn't get anybody local?
When you put out that bid, were these the schools that you requested, or was there more?
Specs.
I remember looking at the backup and I thought there was more.
Yes, we listed the fencing that would be required, specific schools and specifically near feet.
If you'll state your name for the record.
Gustavo Alcantara, Procurement Director, thank you.
So is there a school that we're not doing that we should have been doing, that we had thought we were gonna? This doesn't let me get back to look at the backup here. It's on page 570 on the backup because I wrote it down on my notes, but.
There are 4 schools, ma'am, Dovalina, McDonald, Kristen, and Cigarroa.
And when they submitted their bid for it, they listed only those 4 schools?
Yes, ma'am. But we can go and order additional up to $25,000.
I just thought that I saw more than 4 schools, but I'll look it up later.
Yes, ma'am.
Quick question, in the Link Fest, you're talking about H, right?
Yes, sir.
We're considering at Cigarroa Middle and Christian Middle, putting up a
Wrought iron.
wrought iron fence. So that means if we do that, we gotta go out for bids if we put any more.
So you're saying don't
Because
do
there was-
Kristen?
We're looking at if
Postponing.
If we're looking at, because we talked about the last board, if in the plan of building the Civic Center, what we're doing, we can actually throw that in there. It's going to be covered by bond money, so we don't have to go looking for money. It's already put in place, and we're able to do the whole.
I think it's two different.
Of all of that area. at the
It's
same
really
time.
2 different perimeters.
Right.
But we'll bring a clarification on. Did you want to add something, Mr. Velasquez?
Just basically, just to clarify the question, these projects are more related into safety and security. So as part of the CIP, we have a line item for that. And these particular fences are interior fences to make sure that all the people coming into the schools are funneled through a
So
specific
it doesn't conflict with the wrought iron fence.
It's a different thing.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mr. Velasquez. May we proceed, Dr. Moreno?
Yes.
4I.
This is the procurement method for construction of canopies. Staff recommends approval of the request for competitive sealed proposals as the method of procurement for the construction of the canopies at Don Jose Gallego Elementary School.
Why is it different from the 4I to the 4J? They're both canopies. Why do we have 2 agenda items?
4HI is for canopies and H is J.
J is the structures, the playground structure, shade structures. And for,
Well, it said canopies for elementary playgrounds.
Right.
I think that's.
Co-op
That's a
42313,
mistake.
canopies for elementary playgrounds.
It says canopies, yes. To
Oh,
comply.
so we shouldn't call it canopies because it's not a canopy, it's a
It's a
playground
shade structure, right.
Good point.
We'll make that.
We'll clean that up. We'll make that correction.
Okay.
May we proceed? 4K.
Yes.
RFP number 15-042, staff development and instructional materials. The evaluation committee recommends awarding a contract to Ford Farrier for an estimated amount of $300,000.
$300,000.
So let me just ask you, when you were doing the fence, when you requested the bid, you did include Veterans Field fencing. Did that get eliminated or not? That's not being done, or that's not part of this? I knew you had another entry there.
Yes, yes, ma'am. The Veterans Field was included, but for this presentation, since we are pending some further clarifications on the wooden fence, it was not included in this presentation.
So that means we're not awarding it for that purpose?
We're not making a recommendation for Veterans Field at this time.
That's fine.
Because the board asked us to go look at wood.
Yeah, that is correct, sir,
Okay.
yes.
That's fine.
May we proceed, Dr. Moreno?
Yes.
All right. 4L,
RFP number 15-041. This is for physical therapy services. The evaluation committee recommends awarding to Algo Health, Inc. and Ruth B. Cowell Rehabilitation Center for an estimated amount of $25,000.
4M,
TASB Buy Board Co-op number 482-15, Texas Department of Information Resources, Co-op number DIR-SDD-1951, and number DIR-SDD-2068, the Cooperative Purchasing Network, number R5106, the Interlocal Purchasing System, number 1121914, U.S. General Service Administration, number GS-35F-009U. Co-ops, this is for computer supplies and peripherals. The Evaluation Committee recommends awarding a contract to Best Buy Company, B&H Photo and Electronics, Troxel Communications, Pro Computing Corp., Summit Integration Systems, Dell Marketing, Apple Computer Inc., CDW Government, PC and Mac Exchange, and Insight Public Sector for an estimated amount of $950,000.
next.
Item 5, it's tax refunds. We recommend approval. We only have 2.
may we proceed? Dr. Moran, I'd like to ask permission to move up agenda item number 23, if it's okay. It involves a special guest.
Yes, go ahead.
Item number 23 is discussion and update on proposed design options for the LISD Performing Arts Center. While our executive assistant is handing out some information, I'd like to invite up representatives from Frank Architect Group, Mr. Frank Rotnowski and his lovely spouse, Miss Viviana Frank. And he has an update for us based on his last presentation regarding the, I'm going to call it the Civic Center Master Plan. And so we're going to start with, I'm going to do the athletics, right? So here's what we want to do first. We have 2 presentations. I'm basically going to do one, and then I'm going to turn it over to our architect to lead the second presentation. The first one is basically what we're calling an athletic field update. So at the Civic Center design, the second part of this presentation is really getting into the Civic Center, the theater, the ballroom, a potential central office, and some other updates that our architects have for us. But this first presentation, I just wanted to really make sure we had a good understanding of the tennis courts that we were looking at. We also are looking at some potential. If you go to the next slide, Mr. Rotnowski. So on the tennis center, you're seeing a sample rendering of this design. I'm not sure how to get it to where there you go. So that's a sample rendering. You see Line Decker on the back side. Obviously, the telecommunications building from the city of Laredo would be on the other side, and then Shirley Field parking lot would be just south of this rendering. Next slide, Mr. Ranowski. Okay, so the tennis center, we already have money allocated, an estimated budget of $1,580,000. Dr. Moreno, members of the board, I would like to respectfully recommend to the board that if we do nothing else that you see on the rest of this presentation, we would like to have the board consider and take action on the tennis courts so that we can have a completed construction date of August 2016. Now, I have visited with several members of the board who still have some concerns regarding parking, regarding the design. We've had conversations, as you can see on this particular slide. At some point, if the board is ready to take action next week, so that we can finish them by August. Then one other decision that our architect team and our construction team will need is, do we put 8 courts there or 9 courts? We do have 9 courts at Nixon right now, but as I met with the architect, the idea of 8 courts with a grand center court is just a design I wanted to make sure that the board considered, because technically when you look at the Nixon project, it's a beautiful design, but it's missing this, I call it a Wimbledon type feel, where you have bleachers right around a center court. So when you have your final, if you go to any tennis matches, you'll see that there's this build up. And it starts with the doubles matches, and you have a finals, and then you have a finals on the singles, boys and girls. So, you know, I don't know how much of that you want to discuss tonight, but before we talk about the other aspects of our athletic master plan, we just wanted to say that we would like to make some decisions regarding the tennis courts so that we could possibly have them done by August. Dr. Moreno, any comments or questions before we go
So the
forward?
question is, does the board want to approve 9, or do they want to approve 8 with the idea that there would be some bleachers and an opportunity for
A center
that
court,
final?
right, a main court,
A
right.
main court. Is there any comments from board members on that?
Just when you're looking at the main court, UIL doesn't allow bleachers and any of that within the premises. You got to be outside for UIL. They can't coach, none of that. That has to be caged off. That's why you see in different courts, you don't see bleachers, because it's not UIL standard, and this is for UIL competition.
A point well taken, Mr. Garcia. Something we need to look into.
Sure.
But it's not required, right, by UIL? So it'd
Well,
be
we
nice
need to
to
double
have
check, you know, and really, it's kind of that's really a technicality, because the bottom line is 8 or 9, we want to get started. And so you're right, we do need to decide that, and we can get some UIL confirmation either way, but
I still think we need the 9. If we did that at Nixon, we need to do that there, and we need to be as courteous as we were for the other one. Yeah.
see, respectfully though, I was thinking do something a little different.
That's
You know,
fine,
just
but
a
it's not-
little, you know, so they're not identical, they're not even comparable. You
I'm
got
saying-
one
I'm saying
that,
identical when it comes to the sense of 9.
yes, sir, yes, sir.
But do they
It's the will of the
have, they have some bleachers at Nixon, right? They have a center court for
No,
the
they
main
have
matches?
they have a covered space when you walk in, of which I don't see here.
Right.
Right, they have
Yeah.
like an entrance and it has bathrooms and it has that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's where people watch the tournaments from.
That's
but it's
right,
all
yeah,
gated
because there's a
off.
covered space in there that they can watch from there.
So
Over here,
I'm
I don't see it here.
Is
So
there
I'm
some
hearing you
bleachers
say
on the
even if-
sidelines?
Obviously, there's a site configuration difference between the two sites over at Nixon and here. But again, this is like very preliminary master plan. We can integrate some of those ideas, like the shade devices and some minimal bleachers. It's a much tighter site. So,
I think when you're just looking at the master plan on the tennis court, that you have to have an area, if you're consolidating all of them in the same area or splitting like that, I actually like the other one where everybody's together, all the courts are together. There has to be an area where it's, you can actually sit there on bleachers or benches or at tables, and you're able to watch all the tournaments, but you're not on that side of the fence, you're on this side of the fence, which is a covered area where your restrooms are, your coach's office are, because this should have the coach's office like the other one did like it had coach's office, it had, I know the Nixon one has
Locker room.
Bathrooms,
locker rooms and all this, where the kids can go, this is their home, this is where they can dress, change, practice and all this. It's just not tennis court, but it's a competition for them. Wherever
Right.
you have it, I don't have my glasses on.
okay, and I guess that small area, if we can come into this small area here adjacent to the courts between the courts and Line-Decker, this is an area that we could do it.
How about
letter
dressing,
A is?
Yeah,
Yeah,
letter A.
okay.
dressing rooms?
Good feedback.
Yeah, it has to have theirs.
So that's, I'm sorry.
Are they included, the dressing rooms?
At this level of discussion with the configuration of the site, we do not have them, but we can look for an area to incorporate those in there.
For
There's a great-
1.58 million?
It'd be a little bit tight.
So you think that for the board meeting, that could be in there
Yes,
Yes.
for the tennis courts decision, yes,
for
ma'am.
next week?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Okay,
One more thing, One more thing that.
So everything as close to Nixon as possible?
Okay, and yes,
Well,
I understand.
Dr. Nelson, the only other concern being, to be, for the other sports, is that the way you have it there, you have that second court, that's going into the baseball field or the practice field that Martin uses for football, for soccer and all that. It doesn't?
No, that's just, I'm sorry.
Not that one up there, the second one.
Yeah, no, that's just option A and B, I'm
It's going to
sorry.
be one of the, it's either going to be A
One or the
courts-
other.
Yeah, it's either going to be A or B, and it'll be where A is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just shows the variation, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that. That is confusing. That's another football field.
So the only other thing I want to say is that if you go over to Nixon, I'm sure you've seen that site.
Yeah.
They have some bleachers, they have, and so I think in your 9-court model, you didn't have any of those amenities.
Site prohibitive, but I can look at some areas alongside of Linedecker to do that.
Well, I just hear the board saying it needs to be as close to Nixon's as possible.
I got
No,
it.
it's on
I got
because
it.
it's got the covered area.
So if we can proceed real quick,
Yes.
so we got the tennis courts, and we'll add
I'm
that
sorry,
to
Mr.
the
Martinez
regular
had
agenda.
a comment.
Yes.
Mr. Martinez.
On the last school board meeting, when we discussed the tennis courts, Mr. Valdez brought some information that he had discussed with the city manager. Well, after that, we received some communications in writing from the city manager that we still needed to replace the 200 spaces that were being taken here, okay? So a letter came in after the discussion. We still, if we remove 200 spaces, which is about 1/3 of the parking on the whole area here, then we still need to replace those 200 spaces. Where are we going to get them from? And if we do not get them from here, then we cannot build tennis courts there because we're going to replace the parking outside of the parking area instead of finding another place. And I don't know where we can find another area for the tennis courts. But the city manager sent us a written communications that we still needed to replace the 200 spaces from either here or from outside. So we're still in a bind.
At the end of the day, I had that same discussion, and partly right, partly wrong. Eventually, the 200 and whatever parking spots will have to be done within the next couple of years. Not, if we actually get a permit tomorrow to build, they will accept the building because we're going to do.
Oh, I know that. That's not the
parking lot that we're
point.
taking has actual parking spaces that belong to the school, not so much to the auditorium. So they're going to count that as part of the, as part of the
Well, that's an
spot.
option, but not
And-
necessarily
and
the truth.
schools, and the actual school itself, instead of gating out the way we gated it out, that after 5 o'clock you cannot park there, that we redo this fencing where that parking is always available in the evening too. So that of the city manager, and we've had the same conversation, and he's for us building and will support anything that we actually do. And
I
that
know.
was put in writing.
Okay, I agree with you on that we did discuss it, you discussed it, we discussed it, Dr. Nelson, myself, and Mr. Valdez discussed it. But the final line is, we still have to find 200 spaces for parking that we're going to remove from here. And that's why we are removing, that's why we don't have parking. We don't have tennis courts at Martin, because we built a science building and remove the tennis courts. Now we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to remove the parking and build tennis courts, but then we're going to have to bring the parking spaces somewhere else. And that's going to be the parking spaces probably either outside. We cannot, just from the air, get 200 spaces, and we're short of parking at the Civic Center area, which we've had some activities, and we run out of parking, and we cannot be parking in the streets. There's a big liable situation there. So we need to find an answer where we're going to have those 200 spaces, which is about 1/3 of this whole thing. If not, we're going to have to hold on building the tennis courts here.
Well, we have asked the district to let the people know that if anybody's interested in selling and they happen to be located right across the street,
Yes.
then we will consider.
$2 million.
Well, if the price is not good, then we don't buy it.
And then what do we do?
Bring it to the.
I thought, well, wait a minute, no, I thought, no,
Bring it back to
the
the
letter,
board for
the
approval
letter,
of this, and we don't want to go into the discussion of this again. Bring
No,
it-
but that's what
let's
we're here
vote
for
on-
in this committee.
Let's vote on it, and let's just go
Yes.
forward on it.
I read
If we do,
the-
we're gonna sit there for another year doing nothing as we did the year before.
I read the.
I know, but that's what the purpose of this committee is for, to discuss it
That's my opinion.
in more details.
That's good.
I read, I don't know, we all got the
Mr.
same
Garza?
letter. I didn't know we got the same letter. What I got from that letter is the go-ahead to do this.
Right.
And whatever.
Yeah, but eventually you have to bring the 200 spaces. That's
I
what we got
understand
from the letter.
I understand that. So, but that's my point, that we're going to do it, we're going to move along with it, and then we're going to find. what
For
we can do.
now,
but
let's,
where?
for
Outside?
Well,
now,
I mean, right now, we're not, that was the reason that the city gave us that.
Okay.
So we can move forward, whether it's outside or inside. He says, we're leaving it up to you guys. They're giving us, the leeway to do what we're gonna do so that these kids won't get hurt, coming next year. So they're telling
Okay.
us basically that they're gonna.
for
work
now, what we need to do is, we need to have them bring us back, what would it look like if we try to have it as close to what Nixon has?
Yes, ma'am.
And let's see what we can bring
Okay,
back
Doctor.
with
Quick
that.
question to the
We're not taking any
architect.
votes at this time anyway.
Do you have any, right now, just with this plan, do you have any additional parking areas besides the ones that once we actually stripe, that's gonna, by itself, is gonna create about 100 to 150 new parking spots according to the city manager and to our people. So just with that alone, but what else do we have anything else that we have extra parking here?
Well, if you follow the City of Laredo shared parking ordinance, which means you would be allowed to use other parking lots, I think you all earlier mentioned the possibility of opening up Line Decker. I think Mr. Garcia just mentioned that. There's approximately 97 parking spaces there, as well as, I know you all are currently also redoing the Veteran Field area, and right now there's 215. And
those are not counted in
No.
there yet? See, that's
That's
really,
300.
those are
We're-
definitely
we're 50
available.
We're 50 parking spots more than they're asking us to do without doing anything yet.
And we have people that are interested in selling us their property across the street on Garden.
So let's continue,
Let's continue.
let's bring it back to us at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. May we proceed?
Yes.
The next thing we want to talk about in our athletic master plan is Veterans Field upgrades. You see a rendering of where we would like to head, basically for an estimated budget of approximately $2,640,000. We would like to put a new field out there, a new press box, including a suite, restroom upgrades, concession stand upgrades, and a new scoreboard at an estimated cost of $2,640,000. You see here, if for some reason the board wanted to consider and possibly act on that, then we're looking at a completion date of November 2016, which in our opinion is right in time for baseball season 2017. Comments or questions on the veterans?
What kind of a field is this?
Oh, you mean as far as turf or whatever?
Yes.
I don't think it's turf. I think
No, you
it's
don't play baseball with turf.
grass.
it's a baseball specific grass.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, one of the and I don't know if this is feasible or not, but the other field adjacent to it that will be used as also, I'm assuming, as a practice field?
We don't have money.
The adjacent field,
Right.
that would be a practice field, right?
Yes.
Can that one, I wouldn't mind looking into the possibility of looking at it in terms of turf, because of the wear and tear, that if you're gonna have the soccer team practicing there, you're gonna have the football team practicing there. I'm not sure if that's the way it's working.
The only thing I see that you also have, I'm sorry, the only thing, you also have your discus and your shot put there.
Yeah.
And throwing
it's
into
grass.
that is not something you want to do, because you're throwing a disc, you're throwing a shot.
Oh, I got you. It's gonna
and
tear it
you're
up.
throwing-
100
It's gonna tear it
yards.
up.
Yeah.
Secondly, if you're ever gonna have any big track meets, and I'd say they build a beautiful stadium, but long jump and triple jump pits that you all built the stadium is not something that, like, Water Olympic would never move here, because we don't have the facility to have 3 or 4 events running at the same time in long jump and triple jump, because there's no running room, it's very dangerous. So
Okay.
I would, that second baseball field, if you can also design within that same long jump and triple jump. That way, like the Border Olympics and things like that would actually start rotating, and you're gonna get more regional track meets, because now it becomes a real, you have beautiful track meet, but you need that second piece to make it work perfectly. So if you can do that on the side, that'll add a lot of value to the actual stadium itself for regional and state track meets.
Are you saying that the pole vault? The pole vault pit is not good enough there?
The pole
that.
vault pit is pretty good, but the
Yes.
long jump and triple jump, no bueno.
I'm just saying that we can
No
jump.
bueno.
They can actually use that pit to do another pole vault pit and eliminate that completely and put that on the other side, because it doesn't work.
Can we look into the field upgrades also, that the net that protects the audience from any foul balls covers the
Upgraded.
whole thing? Because we've seen it too many times with the City of Laredo's field that it hits people in the face.
You know, that's true. I want to be clear. We really don't have that problem at Veterans. What you're talking about at the LEA or
Yes.
Unitrade,
Yeah.
it's, if you go to a baseball game, our net actually covers, so where we have foul balls going real fast, we don't have people sitting. So, but you're right. We could look for an upgrade.
Just keep an eye
there.
on it, since we know that it can happen.
Yes, absolutely. So the final part of our athletics master plan update, and we're just, we're looking at it as two separate, because we think these athletic upgrades, they got timelines for kids to compete on them. So the Dr. Cecilia May Moreno Aquatic Center, what we call the MAC, is Dr. Mac, or whatever you want to call it. But the bottom line is all we're suggesting is that if you go out there, you spend time out there, you see our kids out there all day. We've been having this conversation about what we call playground shade structures. Well, you have the same situation at the pool. And it does beat down in the summers, and you can put for approximately, más o menos, as we say here, $275,000, you can cover that pool with it doesn't keep water out. It does, it would provide some shade structure, and we think that could be something to consider.
Can I add one? I think we were looking at it when we did the ceremony. I'd like to see if, what the added cost would be to extend the concession stand area closer to the water. There's a lot of dead space in between. In other words, the seating area is way over there towards adjacent to the building.
By the office.
Yeah, so that we can extend the shade a little bit further in towards the pool. There's a lot of dead space in there that's not being used.
Do you understand that,
Yeah.
Mr. Radnowski?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
You know,
we can look at that.
Because that one, you have shaded area on both sides, but if you extend that area towards the middle, that
Yeah.
also can be a gathering place, maybe not for concession, but so there can be
Little covered hall.
other bleachers or something else
Sure.
that can go in that
Like
area.
a nice connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a
Sure,
formal.
sure.
Just a concern, and I'm telling to know, he's telling me about it, that whatever, what do they call, cover that we put something that's gonna last, because we have been seeing around the city, for whatever reason, we put them up and they're destroyed with a wind, or they're just put up badly, or bad material, or they went out looking for the cheapest price that we can get, and not getting something that's gonna last us, that we get something that's
Sturdy.
that's going to last us 5 years, has a warranty for 5 or 10 years.
Sure.
And not something that's going to last us a year that we have to replace after that. I'd rather do a permanent structure than something that's going to last a year or 2 years.
Sure.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Ratnowski, but I believe the structure we're talking about has a 10-year.
Generally a 10-year.
Okay.
That's correct.
Would it be because that you have to put some tension in there, only because I think it's too wide for any permanent structure to be in there, that we might have a structural problem in there?
Well, if you-
we'll have to look at that.
Yeah, if you look at these types of structures, that's why we're proposing tension-type structures, like, as you can see, the way that they get stretched, and
Yeah.
they're in pieces, and it's not a continuous, they
Right.
overlap, and
Right.
this is just one idea, of course. This is just very general at a master planning state.
So based on, thank you,
You
Dr.
have to
Moreno.
have some area where sun can come in, and then you're defeating the purpose, because your water's going to be cold.
Yeah.
I had one of these at the old house, and we never went swimming because
It's too cold.
that thing was always, yeah, remember?
It's
my house?
freezing.
Yeah, it was freezing all the time. If it wasn't a heated pool, then we couldn't get in because the cover kept the sun from warming up
Yeah,
the water.
keeping it true.
You remember that?
That's a good point. Okay. Okay, so
Let
moving
me
on.
just,
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Martinez.
that's okay.
Go ahead.
We were looking at this new small practice field for baseball. Exactly what is that going to do? Because that is a field that is, that Kristen and the other football programs that we have depend quite a bit on.
That's right.
We cannot just build another baseball field there.
I think is it softball field?
Softball?
No.
Yeah, I think that practice field is going to be a softball field.
Softball and practice, yeah.
But in the green,
For
the green
softball.
spot,
But it
it's
is a
gonna be
softball field
the
right now
green
anyway.
areas. It's
Right,
gonna be
that's
practice
what we're
field
saying
for
is-
football and for-
This one?
But new field, new turf,
Yeah, that one.
clean upgrade.
Please keep in mind that we need dressing areas for softball, baseball, soccer. There's a great need at Martin High School for dressing areas right now.
All under the estimated budget, please.
Dr. Nelson, real quick, you have the pointer, right? Where your softball field is? Point at it? Go down? That's Christian's practice field. And when we're designing all this, can we not look at that to make sure that we're using that to full potential? Because that's where they practice, right? Right, and it's not in any kind of, we need to make it look more like a actual.
Clean it up,
Yeah,
stripe
clean
it up or
and
something.
Not so much stripe it, but if we have the property there, maybe it's a better use of using that property for practices field, that we're doing everything at the same time, so it's a multi-purpose, not only for Christian, but for Martin too, that they're able to use everything together, because there's greenery there, but we don't use it to capacity, because I think it's lopsided. They used to have a shot put there, the pits are still there, they need to be replaced, because that's.
Leveled
a
off
yeah.
completely.
I think we can
Make
use
it
better
look
use
like
of
an
it.
official practice field.
Yeah, make better
Sure.
use of it.
Okay.
They had no bleachers or none of that.
Yes, sir.
All as part of that project.
Right.
Yes.
Like-
So what we'd like to do now is really move quickly to the other presentation. I've already spoke to the board president and several members of the board. The update on the Civic Center design is clearly still in just the planning stages. This could obviously go a different direction, but what we're looking at is we're really trying to be aggressive in identifying a place to have 130,000 square foot central office. And so that's not the only update that we have from Mr. Rodnowski, but I'll turn it over to him at this time to take you through the second presentation. Mr. Rodnowski?
Thank you, Dr. Nelson. Frank Rodnowski, along with Viviana Frank of Frank Architects. We're happy to be here tonight to present the updated version of the LISD PAC Master Plan. What we tried to do, I hope we did, we incorporated your comments from our last presentation, and we're about to present 3 versions. In terms of versions, they're similar to the ones that we had presented last time, but we had incorporated some of your comments, and I'll take you through that. Option A, which is the simplest of the renovation of the existing PAC auditorium, primarily consists of just that. It would be all the ADA upgrades that we had talked about last time, bringing the building up to life safety compliance, mechanical upgrades, roof repair, and really just closing in, and as we refer to as drying in the building. There are lots of leaks both through the existing roof system and also just wall fenestration. To clean all that up, go in there, repaint, and as we refer to, an interior refinish. That would be the simplest of applications, and to do that, our estimated budget at the master plan level is between $4.5 and $5 million. Option 2 changed a bit from last time because at the last meeting we heard from you all, and you had talked more about working with the existing buildings. And you can see here, of course, this is the auditorium complex, the ballroom, and the meeting room. And the idea here was to do a complete renovation, but also connect the buildings, bring them together, add additional square footage for meeting and for lobby space, and make it more of a grand facility and do upgrades to the interior of the auditorium, including new seating, the possibility we talked about of an orchestra pit. And again, connecting all of the buildings as more of a monolithic one, sitting on a plaza. And that is a rendering, a revision of what that could look like, how they all come together. This is a view as if we were walking from San Bernardo into the plaza. On your on your left side, you would have the entrance into the PAC, and then the formal connection back to the renovated and ballroom. You can't see it here, it's kind of dark, but it also would encompass connecting the meeting room. So really what you would have is one centralized performing arts center, auditorium, meeting rooms, and ballrooms as one monolithic building sitting on the site.
Let me quick question, in the auditorium, in the Civic Center, would it hold the same amount of people?
The bowl itself, yes, it would. It would hold the same amount of people, yes.
Is that facing San Bernardo or Garden Street?
San Bernardo.
That's actually facing, like you're walking toward west.
From San Bernardo.
So you're walking from, like,
Christmas tree.
I'm out, yeah, exactly. You're at the Christmas tree or the plaza?
Holiday tree, excuse me.
The holiday tree, okay. And you'd be walking toward, yeah.
But, you know, and obviously the interior design is still in the, but I guess my guess, and I'm happy to see that because that dead space in front, the uneven cement in the front of the building and everything, I thought we could expand, like you're doing it right here.
Yeah.
Expand it. And that can also be, we might not be able to get more people inside the auditorium itself, but now we have that, the connecting space in there can be used for other things in terms of putting the ballroom and the meeting spaces together.
Absolutely.
What my mentality was that they can have other smaller meetings, that they don't have to go and open the whole ballroom. They can have their science fair probably in there without having to open up the whole, because I think the ballroom only takes up, when you use the science fair, you have to open it all up and only a third of it gets used. That can be the walkway area in there. So it can be a multi-purpose area also, basically.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And it doesn't create, I like because it doesn't stop the natural breezeway that was, I think, the original intention of leaving San Bernardo open, and you can view it all the way to the main auditorium area.
That's correct. It follows,
Natural breezeway.
it follows what's there, but it just kind of brings it and ties it all back together. What I just mentioned to you from a perspective point of budget is somewhere between $13 and $14 million to complete those upgrades, which, like I said earlier, would include the renovation of the ballroom as well as the auditorium and the interior of the auditorium as well, with seating and an orchestra pit. Last option is basically Project B, which we just saw, which does incorporate the buildings. But we're also looking to maximize the actual square footage of the PAC, and was asked to introduce the opportunity of looking at a administrative centralized office building. So what we were looking at to do what Mr. Garza just mentioned, the idea of the open plaza and keeping that intact, we were looking at proposing a building along Garden Street. And what this is, aside from a really good orientation, because now the building is running east to west, and it's basically using the area between the telecommunications building and the PAC. This building can be connected to everything if you opt it to be. It could be isolated as its own building if you'd like. But we were able to take the square footage that was given to us and work it into that part of the site, minimizing the lot, and there's a couple of views of what something like that could look like. This would be that similar view from San Bernardo walking in, but of course you can see behind it a proposed four-story structure that would centralize all of your business operations and meetings and everything else that you need to do there.
What's the square footage?
Right now, the preliminary is another view from Garden Street. The preliminary program that we were given was 125,000 square feet. And that would run along Garden Street.
Would that piece sticking out be the superintendent's office or what?
That would be more, no, that would, no, Well, it's very early in master planning, but no, we see that more like, that's the public area.
Inside a glass cage.
We'll call it the aquarium, we'll see what it's doing all day long.
Gorilla's cage. There you go.
That will be the board meetings, and it's very transparent, so everybody can see what's going on. Public
Very
activity.
symbolic, huh?
At the top, nobody can see anything.
The symbolism behind it.
That's funny.
This is master planning. I know that we look at these things and say, that's how you're going to, it's very preliminary. I mean, not only this, but even the massing, I mean, there's other options, but we're just bringing to you another way of looking at this.
Could you get from the district just how the 125,000 square feet would be divided up? What kind of
We
offices?
can provide that. We can provide that.
Yeah, we were provided already from the district a complete breakdown
Okay.
of your requirements, yes.
I think consolidating everything into one area as the heart of LISD is in the heart of our school district is unbelievable. To have Martin High School, the oldest school that we have, and Christian, and then with the renovation that we're doing with the water, with a swimming pool and the baseball field and the football fields, and then putting central office there, it'd be a structure that nobody in Laredo can say they have. I know our sister school district been looking to try to do something like that. We'd be the first, and I think that it's something that I think our taxpayers deserve. I think our administration deserves, and we can bring everybody together, which is our weakness right now, is that we're walking 2 blocks and 3 blocks, and the superintendent's not going to walk too many blocks, so getting everybody in the same place. It's a good thing to do, and not that he doesn't want to, he just has a lot of stuff on his desk.
I appreciate
or
the
on his plate.
clarification.
Thank you, sir. Not that he doesn't want to, but it's a lot to do, to go from one building to another building, and when you have people there that you pick up the phone, I need to see him office in 5 minutes, you're there, and you don't have to, if it's raining, I can't go, it's raining, or, I mean, just the thought of consolidating and bringing this up to what the taxpayers voted on is the bottom line.
I have 2 things to add, Dr. Moreno.
Yes.
One really just affirms Mr. Garcia's comments. If you look at what other urban districts our size and larger, they all have a centralized multi-story building where that it's the central house. It's not everyone, but it's most. It's your superintendent's office, it's your finance department, it's your human resources department, it's any of your support services. You know, we're not planning on moving Lion. We'll give you a detail of this, but it's not our operations and plant facilities department. It's not police unless the board directed us to do so. They already have a setup. The only other concern, out of respect for Mr. Martinez, is this would increase our parking situation. And Mr. Rodnowski and Mr. Velasquez and I, as we met about this over Christmas break and again prior to this meeting, you know, we got some ideas. That 4-story complex has parking under it.
It could. It's a possibility if that's the direction.
You know, we just wanted to go ahead and bring it up because we know that that's going to be, you know, there's a lot of people. If you move 125,000 square feet worth of people over there, we're going to have places to park.
Sure. So. Right, but you can make it with a parking lot under there that all the parking would take, and you can actually add on to it. That's what they did downtown where they did the courthouse. So you have 2 or 3 story structure underground.
Sure.
So we have it, but it's just something to look at. And the difference between us and the other systems that we asked our taxpayers, do you want something done? And they told us yes. The other school district said no. So our taxpayers are telling us to do something like this because they see the problem that we have.
There's 2 things to look at from my perspective. Obviously, the whole idea is great. You know, this is something that the structure itself, I think is going to be something that the taxpayers can have for the next 20 years or however long this building is going to last. But more importantly, what I wanted to do for staff to sort of start looking at right now, because this is the preliminary stages, there is some talk, there is some other ideas going on, whether or not that building belongs anywhere else. But more importantly, what I want to do is the cost effectiveness of having everything done in one location. Yeah, we can have the human part about having everybody in there, but the absolute cost of having everybody in there, meaning that obviously having a building there is going to create, at least our operations costs are going to go up, as we just saw earlier. How that's going to entail, the process of selling everything down here and getting everybody over there, those type of options, those type of solutions that staff is already looking at. That way, when we finally meet to decide on some of these things, we can have a cost analysis of what's going on, and the different options behind it. That way, we won't get caught. As beautiful as it all seems, don't get me wrong, this is all great, and I'm for it. The problem is that there's also one little key item to the decision-making process that sometimes we overlook, is the process of operating cost after the fact. And a lot of school districts and a lot of entities around town and all over the country just do not look at that. And how is that going to affect our bottom line at the end of the year? Of course, like I said, it's not going to deter from the fact that we like it, but it really is something else that we can start looking at. How are we going to get those monies replaced? Or how are we going to get those monies done?
And at the end of the
The
day,
focus is not just, do we like it? The focus is, do we need it? And, we struggle with performance of students and academic performance, and I really believe that the fact that we don't have a place where all of our departments can be together with central office administrators and in particular the superintendent, that's impacting our performance.
I think you can't put a number on that. Plus, if we do it the right way, it should be an energy-efficient building where there's not one building that not one person in this room is staying in right now that is efficient electricity-wise, air conditioning-wise. You'd be saving a lot more money consolidating everybody because of water, because of lighting, because of we're not properly insulated.
That's exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. So that by the time that we do that, we can say, look, Matt, with everything that we have here, because I think that's part of the transparency process. If we stay here, we're spending this much money by doing this. We need to move. And by doing this, it'll give us an idea of our payback period also. Because if we move over there, we build it's going to cost right here. We save the money for it. The admin building, hopefully everything could get built by savings and not bond money. Hopefully we can do that. The point is that once we have that, we can be as transparent as we can. It's going to cost us this much to operate. This was costing you this much by staying and not doing anything.
Yeah, I agree.
Sure.
So if there's no other comments or questions, I think we've got some feedback. We can continue to work with the architects. May we proceed?
Yes, next item.
Thank you. Item number 6 is, thank you very much, Mr. Radnowski.
Thank you.
Mrs. Frank.
Not that you said much.
Would you like to make any comments, Ms. Viviana Frank, to the trustees?
Oh, well,
Hello.
hello. I haven't said much, but I just want to add one little thing, and it's a big thing, actually, is that there's many blessings to this site, and one of them, in great part, is the fact that when you put things together, it creates sustainability, just by the fact of putting things together. But the most incredible thing about this site is that it allows you to orient the building in the perfect way so that you can get all the north light along the long side and the south light on the long side, and minimize the walls to the west, which is the killer side for us in Laredo. And that's one of the great, that's just siting. That's just being able to put the building in the right place. Just doing that, you don't have to do all these, leaps and bounds and spending lots of money on certain things to save money on energy. So while I just wanted to get you all excited about that. I know it's hard sometimes to inspire, these are the things that inspire me, so. But I just want you all to consider that, because this is such an important part of this entire site that's just blessed for a lot of opportunity to create sustainability for the district.
Thank you, Ms. Frank.
Thank you.
Item number
Next
6. Item number 6 is discussion and presentation regarding speaking services provided by the superintendent to other entities pursuant to Education Code Section 11.201 subsection E. Dr. Moreno, members of the board, in the background information, I've provided actually 5 upcoming activities I'll be participating in. The only one that I think for the interest of the public is where I'll be compensated is on February 7th. The Texas Association of Secondary School Principals, TASSP, is having an assistant principal workshop. We have a typo. It says San Antonio, but it's actually in Austin, Texas. And I'll be compensated $500 plus travel costs for that. That's a Sunday, and so I won't need to take any personal leave for that event. And then you'll see I do have some other things, including midwinter and some other things, but none of those I won't be compensated for any of those. Any comments or questions regarding number 6?
Nope. Item 7?
Item number 7 is discussion and presentation to approve the superintendent evaluation calendar, instrument, and process. Our executive assistant has provided you our updated calendar that will begin, if approved, January 2016 and conclude with the summative evaluation in January of 2017. And any comments or questions?
No.
Item number, may I proceed, Dr. Moreno?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Item number 8 is discussion and update on town hall meeting schedule for January 16, 2016. We've come to that time of the year where we're really trying to continue to foster and support our partnership with our families and the parents of the children that we serve. On Saturday morning, beginning at 9 o'clock, we'll be having a town hall meeting at the LISD Civic Center. We'll have breakfast provided. We've got a very elaborate plan, and I just would encourage any trustees that are available that Saturday morning. We've got some videos that we're going to show the public. It's 1 week from this Saturday. Saturday, January 16th from 9. We're also going to have a little information fair in the ballroom that'll include several booths, including our police department's going to have a booth, several of our instructional departments, gifted and talented, special education, and we're working with our parent liaisons to have hopefully close to 1,000 people attend this event. We'll be providing a flyer and more information as our Department of Communications and myself continue to coordinate this event. Any comments or questions?
No. Next item.
Item number 9 is discussion and presentation of the 2016-2017 Public Education Grant PEG list. We went over this item in detail in our Curriculum and Instruction Committee. This is really the Texas Education Agency identifies schools that are in danger of being required improvement. And so we currently have 12 schools on the list. Technically, for the information of the public, it's my opinion we have 4 that are improvement required. And so we have other schools that are in different stages. It has interdistrict transfer provisions, and we're in compliance with all of that. And without getting into it too much, because this is, every time we talk about our students' achievement on the STAR tests, our college readiness initiatives, and a host of other things that we do to focus on student achievement, one of the ways it's measured is the number of schools on our PEG list. Any comments or questions?
Next.
Item number 10 was discussed in the budget amendment section of our business meeting earlier. It reads, discussion and presentation to approve an additive change order in the amount of $615,000 to the current CMAR contract with Leindecker Construction, RFP number 2012-006, for the purchase and installation of artificial turf at the Nixon High School football field renovation project. We respectfully recommend approval on consent agenda. Any comments or questions?
Next item.
Item number 11 is discussion and presentation to approve the investment report for the first quarter ended November 30th, 2015, as required by the Public Funds Investment Act. Ms. Ayala.
Thank you, Dr. Nelson. Unfortunately, The link is off, but here it is. Rotate. The interest earnings for the first quarter were recorded at $127,756. The average quarterly yield was basically, it's at 0.31%, which is still very low. However, it's overperforming the 3-month average treasury yield at 0.05% and the 6-month treasury yield at 0.20%. On the next slide, we have the composition of our investment portfolio. Due to low interest rates out in the market, most of the funds, we left them at the pools and in the bank because they were offering higher interest rates, and that is the reason why you see most of the money in those areas. And that's it. Any questions?
Any comments or questions regarding that agenda item number 11?
Number 12?
We actually already did number 12. May we have permission to, item number 13 is discussion and presentation on TASB policy update 103 affecting the following local policies: BF local, CAA local, CB local, CKE local, CO local, DBD local, DH local.
The only question I have on these is, are you taking especially the legal piece of them and reviewing it with all staff?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's not
Critical.
Not with a few people, but
No,
really.
all the way down to the user.
Because everybody needs to know about all the changes that are in there, and it's very
Absolutely.
comprehensive.
And we expect update 104 this spring. So yes, we will continue to work with our staff to inform and have higher levels of awareness. We'll be recommending approval. Any comments, any other comments or questions?
No, that's it.
Item number, may I have permission to proceed?
Yes.
Item number 14 is discussion and presentation on the scholastic year calendar for 2016-2017. In the interest of time, we just want to give an update on the calendar. I'd like to applaud our Department of Communications because they have actually worked over the holiday, preparing a survey that has been going. It closes tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
The results of the survey will be tallied by Department of Communication on Monday, January 11th. We have scheduled a District Education Improvement Council, DEIC meeting to go over the results of the survey and hear feedback from our district site-based management team. And then we'll have this this will not be on the consent agenda. It will be on the regular agenda for discussion and possible action for approval.
And are you looking into those final exam schedules?
Final exam schedules, we will have an update on that. We've checked the minutes, and so we'll be able to provide an update on that and any other direction that the board would like to see us cover.
Okay, next item?
Item number 15 is discussion and presentation of the Memorandum of Understanding between Texas A&M International University and Laredo ISD to facilitate the provisions of dual credit college courses as mandated by House Bill 1 of the 79th Legislature for a total cost based on student enrollment. We discussed this at last month's meeting and tabled the item to ensure that all of the stakeholders who are involved with this particular MOU had the opportunity for input. I'm proud to report that we've had that collaboration and we've visited with TAMU and we recommend approval of this MOU as now presented.
I read that you put all the classes that we're taking, dual enrollment, all that. The Japanese or whatever, it's not on there. Mandarin, thank you.
Well, I'll go back and look at that before we bring it to the board. I'm not sure why that wouldn't be included.
At least I don't remember seeing it. I was looking for it because
Well, I kind of want to say it was a pilot, but we'll get you a clarification in tomorrow's board
If
update.
it's a pilot that I know it was introduced by Mr. Martinez, but it's a pilot that we have to finish off because it's the freshman, if they took it the first year, they're gonna have to take the three parts
right.
of it to be considered for graduation.
Two
parts
parts.
of it to be considered graduation. So it needs to be on there for next year, so it's we have.
Well, and I know we
paper.
added some other languages, so I'm not sure, where did Oscar go?
I just don't remember seeing it. It could be there, maybe it's not.
Yeah, we added
I didn't
French
see it.
as well, so we'll go back and look at that.
Please.
We proceed?
Yes.
Item number 16 is discussion and presentation to remove the .5 credit physical education from graduation requirements. Our Career and Technology Education Director, along with our Director of Guidance and Counseling, made a presentation on this at our curriculum and instruction meeting. The bottom line is that we're at a point where we want to get organized on how our kids earn credits. And so with the one credit, we meet our state requirements for physical education, and it really allows us to get more creative on some of our other academic interventions and scheduling options. We recommend approval on this as presented. May we proceed, Dr. Moreno?
Yes.
Item number 18 is discussion and presentation on college readiness awareness, academic planning guide, and registration timeline.
Did you do 17 already?
I did not. I apologize. Item number
Real
17.
quick, before you go to 17 on 16, did we, are you going to bring back to us the information of the possibility of doing health at the 8th grade level instead of doing the high school that we talked about? That way that it's not a split, that we have 3 courses now, but only 2, and they're easier to pair up?
Yes, we're preparing a response to that. So item number 17 is discussion and presentation of the 2016-2017 application for early college high school designation. We did present this as well. We have our early college principal here this evening if the board had any questions. We're at the point where we need to prepare our application for TEA, and we've completed it. We've done everything we needed to do, and it requires board approval. So we're recommending approval on consent agenda. Any comments or questions? May we proceed?
Yes, next
Item number 20 is discussion and presentation to accept the final completion and the release of retainage in the amount of $258,387 to Leindecker Construction Incorporated for the VMT School of Communications and Fine Arts Project, RFP number 2012-006. Dr. Moreno, members of the board, this was tabled last month pending signatures, and we've obtained those signatures, and we're prepared to release this retainage. Any comments or questions?
21?
Discussion and presentation to accept the final completion and the release of retainage in the amount of $50,303 to American Contracting USA Incorporated for the CIP 2013-2014 Metal Canopy Projects, RFCSP number 14-031. This is the Alma Pierce canopy that also was pending signatures, which we have since completed. We recommend approval on consent agenda.
Can we, I've seen some canopies there that the ground underneath needs to be maintained.
The dirt and grass and all
Yeah,
that.
it's just, it's hard for kids to be playing under there.
Yes, ma'am. 22?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 22 is discussion and presentation on the guaranteed maximum price for the Lamar Middle School final phase project provided by Leindecker Construction. We just wanted to give an update on this. It will not be on the consent agenda this month because we do not have the GMP at this time. We anticipate, because of the specialty equipment in this project, and really allowing Leindecker Construction to work with all the special subs on this, we anticipate having, from our Department of Construction Services, a GMP for the February board meeting. Any comments or questions?
But we did put a projected budget for that when we actually put Lamar together.
Right, but the way it happens, when we have those projected budgets, once we agree to a construction management method, then when we pick CMAR, we have to allow the construction manager to bring us, here's what he says it's going to be, and locks it in. But they've got a little idea of what we want to spend.
Okay.
Yes. May we proceed, Dr. Moreno?
Yes.
Item number 23.
No, we already did that.
We already did that one.
24.
Item number 24 is communications and updates. We have our regularly scheduled board meeting 1 week from today at 5:30. And on Monday, we have a special called meeting to complete the evaluation of, the annual evaluation of the superintendent as per our calendar that was approved.
So Monday's meeting is at what time?
It is at 5:15. And then we'll meet on Thursday at 5:30, which is also happens, this happens to be National School Board Recognition Month, so we have an exciting meeting, and we want to take a picture of our board on Thursday, so if you'll be prepared for that. And last but certainly not least, I wanted to welcome former Laredo Community College trustee and former employee at LISD and my friend, Mr. Hilario Cavazos. Thank you for joining us. Let's give him a round of applause. And then, good to see you. And then last but certainly not least, I would like to be one of the first to recognize a member of our team that is celebrating a birthday on Sunday. Please help me welcome Chief Richard Palomo, who will have a birthday Sunday, January 10th. That concludes our communications and updates at this time. Dr. Moreno.
So that concludes our meeting. Thank
Yes, ma'am.
you.